I apologize. I am here quite late. It's almost 11:45, but having technical difficulties, which is just par for the course for what I'm going to talk about today. For some reason, I couldn't go live in Facebook. It was telling me that I had to download a beta version of Chrome in order for it to access my camera, all that fun stuff. So I'm here a little bit late today on this Tuesday to talk about Legal Talk Tuesday. And we're going to talk mostly about Mental Health Awareness Month. So we're going to get into that a little bit, especially for those of you who are in Central Arkansas. I'm not sure how it is in the rest of the state, but it's quite dreary and ugly outside and cold, weirdly cold. I'm having a I have my heater on for the first time in forever. I also have a lot of construction noise going on next door. So if you hear any kind of loud bangs, they're throwing things in that big construction, the big green thing that they throw stuff in. So this is just, kind of a perfect storm for having, being tested, I guess, this morning on this Tuesday. So I do want to talk about May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we normally talk about legal things here, kind of advice and tips and things like that. But it's I think it's important during this coronavirus time, during the social distancing time, isolation time, all that stuff, especially on a rainy day, cold day in the middle of May, that we talk about mental health. And I'm going to talk a little bit differently. I'm not going to talk about mental health necessarily for you, but for your family or friends that are struggling, and want to talk about a few conversation starters that you can have in order to let your friends or family member know that you're kind of there and available to them, and that you love them, and recognize that they're struggling, and that you want to be a compassionate witness for them. If you have not heard of the phrase compassionate witness before, I recommend that you look it up. It's a really good way to look at being there for somebody without what I have always done all of my life is try to fix it for them. I always want to come up with a solution, give them options, say, hey, what about this? Have you tried this? There are a couple of different ways that you can listen to someone and be present, and being the fixer is not the best way to be. And that's kind of how I've been all my life. And I'm working really hard to move towards being a compassionate witness instead of being the fixer. So I'll talk about a few conversation starters that you can have with friends or family members that you are either they've said that they're struggling, or that you are noticing that there's a struggle there. So, and a couple of tips too. First thing I want to mention is listen, because if you just try to talk at them and don't let them talk, that's not really helpful for them. So let them take the lead on whatever they want to talk about, and listen to them, because that's part of the problem maybe, is that they don't feel like anybody's hearing them. They don't feel like anybody's recognizing that these are real feelings that they're having. So make sure that you're listening and letting them take the lead on whatever conversation you're having. Keep it casual. That's another tip, because you're not a therapist. Even if you are a therapist, don't necessarily approach your conversations with your friends or family as a therapist. You're just a friend who is worried and wants to express that you love them. And so this is not therapy. Again, don't try to fix them or offer solutions. Just keep it casual. You are a friend who is expressing concern and want to have a conversation with them. Another tip that kind of goes along with everything I've already said is don't offer advice or try to fix. The thing about being a compassionate witness is that you are that person who can acknowledge what they're saying and not go any further than that. So if they ask you for advice, that's a different story. If they ask you for help, what can I do about X, Y, or Z? But if they are just wanting to get their thoughts out, I'm struggling because of X, Y, Z, that, that's very important for you to understand that they're not looking for somebody to fix the problems. Even if they're not necessarily looking for you to do that. They just want someone to acknowledge what they're saying and what they're feeling. And so some of the good things to say in those situations is, wow, that seems like a lot. I'm so sorry you're going through that. I hear you. I understand, or I understand as much as I can. Ask them how you can help, that kind of thing. But don't just automatically jump in with, here are my solutions. Here are ways to fix that problem. It's also important to let them know that it's okay that they feel that way. A lot of times people try to diminish a problem, or they try to say that, oh, they're starving children in Africa, so therefore it's not as bad as you think it is. It's okay for them to feel exactly the way that they feel. It's been kind of a struggle for me personally. I'll just talk from a personal standpoint. It's been a struggle for me a little bit because I have a lot of friends that have children and are struggling with not only, trying to work from home, trying to run businesses, that kind of thing, in their own mental health, but they also have their kids at home. So they're trying to do all these AMI. I don't even know what some of these acronyms mean because I don't have kids, but they're struggling with the lesson plans and that kind of thing. And it's been one of those things where it's been hard for me because I'm struggling as well, but I'm struggling because I'm so isolated. I don't have those other humans in the house who might annoy the crap out of you 90% of the time, but they're there. And so it's one of those things where it's okay that I feel the way that I feel, and it's okay that they feel the way that they feel. And one is not better or worse than the other. It's what's happening truly in your life and in your brain. And so I've caught myself so many times, well, I don't have it as bad as X, person or whatever. And that's just kind of ridiculous because I'm me, and it can be as bad or as good as whatever I want, basically. That's obviously a little bit of tongue in cheek, but don't diminish that either within yourself or within others, that it's not that bad. It could be worse. Those types of things are not helpful in situations where somebody is struggling. It's, make sure they know, that is totally a valid thought. That's a valid way of thinking. I'm sorry that you're feeling that way. If you are asking questions, trying to get more information, little lawyer trick is to ask open-ended questions. So don't ask questions that require or allow a yes or no answer. It's, you want them to be able to verbalize and talk a little bit more about things that are happening in their brains. And so asking open-ended questions instead of closed questions where a yes or no answer is sufficient, that'll help them maybe open up and let them talk a little bit more. Another thing that's important is to let them know that you're not going to judge them, and whatever they say is not going to change the way that you feel about them. Now, that's obviously a little bit of a gray area, depending if somebody tells you that they murdered someone and they're having a really hard time dealing with that. That's a little bit different. But a lot of times people don't talk because they think they're ashamed, or they think other people will think that they're not strong. They're not, handling things well, whatever it might be. So make sure that you're just giving them the space to understand that whatever they say to you is fine, is okay, and that you appreciate them saying that to you, and that you're not going to judge them. You're not going to think differently of them. Just, you're there to just be a presence and to be a listener and whatever they need you to be. Another one is encourage them to, even though I said don't fix that kind of thing, if the opportunity arises in whatever conversation you're having, encourage them to talk to an expert. It's one of those things where a lot of people have problems with therapists or the idea of therapy, and especially I think in southern states, and maybe after a certain age, we just don't do that. And I started going to therapy about 5 years ago for some issues that I was having, and it's the best experience of my life. And so it doesn't have to be a belabored point. You don't have to say it over and over and over again, but just, you know, softly encourage that that they may want to seek an expert. And if, you know, if there is a situation where they say, you know, I talked to a therapist once and it was a horrible experience, it's kind of like why you date multiple people usually before you get married, or why you maybe go to different doctors, or you look at different houses before you buy a house. It's, you know, not every person is going to be a fit for every person. So try one or two different therapists. And again, just softly kind of encouraging that they maybe try somebody else. And one of the biggest things I'd like to kind of point out when you're talking with your friends or family and you're being that compassionate witness, you know, make sure that you handle the trust that they've given you with care and respect. So don't immediately go to, if you're talking to your sister-in-law, for example, and she is telling you all these things that she's struggling with, don't immediately go to your brother or your sister, whoever she's married to that is a sibling of yours. Don't immediately go to them and just blab everything that she told you. So really respect the fact that she trusted you in order to tell you all these things that she's struggling with. And because if you go immediately and tell everybody, then she's never going to trust you again. She's probably going to feel even worse because she opened up and got burned. Maybe that's a trigger for her. Maybe she gets been burned multiple times, whatever it might be. It's, you know, I've been on here a little bit longer than I expected, just because it's a very big deal that we don't talk about enough as far as I'm concerned. Mental health is a real thing. I think it's even more so right now. Not that it's not very important every other time, every other month, every other day of the year, but during our stay-at-home orders, and even though we don't have those technically in Arkansas and we're starting to open back up, it's that's causing me anxiety because I do have an immune deficiency disease. So I'm going to be staying at home forever, I feel like. But it's a very important subject, I think, to talk about. And the more we can be there for other people also allows us to be there for ourselves, because we can show that compassion with others. Maybe we can also self-reflect and give that compassion back to ourselves as well. So just a couple of things today that I wanted to mention. Brooke will be back next week. She's on a board meeting right now, and it's via Zoom. We were both supposed to be in Rhode Island this week for an American Bar Association meeting, and that got canceled. So she's doing it remotely, and I would rather be here with you all, but that's a totally different story. So be kind to yourself, take care of yourself, and we or she will be back here next week, next Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. for Legal Talk Tuesdays. And you guys have a restful, as much as you can, restful and healthy next week. Thanks so much.